Welcome back to another Unplayable card review. Before we take a look at today's card, like always, I want to announce last video's giveaway winner, Pokama01. Congratulations! I've got an Edge of Eternities play booster ready to send your way. You should have received an email from me already with additional details. Don't forget, there will be another giveaway at the end of this video, so stay tuned for more information on that. Moving on, I want to talk about an unusual Azorius enchantment, Palliation Accord. Palliation Accord is a 5-mana enchantment that costs 3 generic, 1 white, and 1 blue mana. It reads, whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, put a Palliation counter on this enchantment. Then, you may remove a Palliation counter from this enchantment to prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. You might notice that the card on screen says Shield Counter, and yet I read Palliation Counter. Sadly, this card was errated when shield counters were released with the Streets of New Capenna. With that said, this card is certainly interesting. I have to assume that the original intent behind this enchantment was to essentially prevent 1 damage for each creature that attacks you in a turn, as each creature that taps to attack will give you a Palliation counter that you can then remove to prevent 1 point of damage. Only Palliation Accord says nothing about being attacked. It triggers any time any creature your opponent controls become tapped, whether they're attacking you or not. That also includes any time your opponents tap a creature to activate an ability, like say Llanowar Elves, Mother of Runes, or even Kiki-Jiki. Interestingly enough, if one of your opponents goes infinite with Kiki-Jiki and Deceiver Exarch or Pestermite, Palliation Accord will generate you 2 counters per activation. Once Kiki-Jiki taps to create a token copy, and again when those copies attack, letting you prevent an infinite amount of damage from this combo. And keep in mind, this can prevent any kind of damage, not just combat damage. But still, at 5 mana, this is a costly investment for this kind of effect, especially compared to cards like Solitary Confinement or even Righteous Aura, which I reviewed in a previous video. Let's talk about some decks where this card might fit. The obvious choice for Palliation Accord is Pillow Fort. As the name implies, Pillow Fort is a defensive strategy where the goal is to make it difficult or even impossible for your opponents to attack or damage you. These decks may run a suite of prevention cards like Urza's Armor or Orbs of Warding, combined with combat deterrents like Ghostly Prison and Propaganda to essentially make themselves immune to damage. With their walls deployed, Pillow Fort decks can then take their time and win in any number of ways. I believe that Palliation Accord was made for this strategy, letting you collect counters over time to be unleashed all at once and swallow a massive burst of damage. And while that sounds great in theory, Palliation Accord does have some obvious weaknesses. Namely, it does nothing without creatures. Many deck strategies play very few creatures, and many more strategies don't prioritize attacking. And then of course there's Vigilance, which shuts down Palliation Accord completely. Against these strategies, Palliation Accord is basically dead on board, and 5 mana for a card that does nothing but add to your devotion is, well, probably unplayable in the Commander format. On the other hand, against 1 or 2 go wide token decks, you'll stack counters on this enchantment so fast you'll basically become immune to damage for the rest of the game. Some commanders who may be interested in this card include Oloro, Ageless Ascetic, Pramikon Sky Rampart, the Council of 4, Faramir, Prince of Athelion, Noble Heritage paired with a blue creature, Ruhan of the Fumori, Isperia Supreme Judge, and more. Moving on, perhaps a better fit for Palliation Accord is a deck built around tapping down your opponent's creatures. While this certainly isn't the most fun archetype to play against, this is a great way to make sure you can consistently get counters on Palliation Accord. And there are lots of cards that can tap down your opponent's stuff. Some of my favorites include Ballynock Trapper, Sunstrike Legionnaire, Sentinel of the Eternal Watch, Citadel Siege, Icy Manipulator, Hilda's Crown of Winter, Opposition, Gadwick the Wizened, and Glare of Subdual. Not only will tapping down your opponent's creatures add counters to your Palliation Accord, but it will also prevent your opponent from attacking you with their scariest creatures, or let you sneak past large defenders to get in for damage. Meanwhile, you can save the counters on Palliation Accord to shut down a surprise attack, burn spell, or alpha strike. And that's not all. There are plenty more payoff cards in this strategy that make tapping down your opponent's stuff even more rewarding. You've got Gideon's Avenger or Solitary Sanctuary to make big beaters. You can draw cards with Verity's Circle, Borrowing 100,000 Arrows, and Betrayal. You can burn down your opponents with Mjolnir, Stormhammer, and maybe Lust for War, and even destroy all of your opponent's creatures with cards like the Akroan War and Sunblast Angel. Similar to a Pillow Fort strategy, however, this style of play is limited by your opponents. Many Spellslinger decks, Voltron decks, and even other Pillow Fort decks run very light on creatures, and this will significantly weaken the strength of many of these cards, especially Palliation Accord. With that caveat, commander options include Hilda of the Icy Crown, Rhoda Geist Avenger and Timon Youthful Geist, Sheree of Numbing Depths, Derevi Imperial Tactician, Titus Blitzball Star, Sensational Spider-Man, Ojutai Soul of Winter, and more. Next up, the last deck archetype I want to cover is Weird Counters. We already talked about how in the right matchup, Palliation Accord can rack up a ton of counters with very little effort. If you have a deck built to take advantage of unconventional counters, Palliation Accord fits right in. While this is definitely a more niche archetype, there are several cards that don't care about the kind of counter on them, simply how many counters they have in total. Cards like Nardole, Resourceful Cyborg, Luxior, Giada's Gift, Gavel of Righteous, Lux Artillery, Twitching Doll, Cleopatra Exiled Pharaoh, and to a lesser extent, Nils Discipline Enforcer. If you can find a way to transfer your Palliation counters onto any of these creatures or artifacts, I mean, talk about overkill. Nardole could make enough mana to make a green deck jealous, Twitching Doll could make you an army, and Cleopatra could draw like half your deck. Unfortunately, moving counters isn't as easy as it sounds. In fact, there is only one easy way to do it: Resourceful Defense. For 2 generic and 1 white mana, Resourceful Defense lets you pay 5 mana to move any number of counters from one permanent to another. And better yet, if a permanent with counters leaves the battlefield, you get to move its counters for free. Resourceful Defense is a must-include in this strategy. There are some other cards that let you move a single counter at a time, like Goldberry River Daughter and Nesting Grounds, but honestly, those are too slow for this strategy. Instead, as an alternative, you could turn your Palliation Accord into a creature with something like Starfield of Nyx, Opalescence, Zur Eternal Schemer, Bellow Bard of the Brambles, or Captain Rex Nebula. Once you have turned your Palliation Accord into a creature, you can use cards like Slippery Bogbonder, Fate Transfer, or potentially the Ozolith to move your Palliation counters to another creature. Is that too many hoops to jump through? Maybe, but that's for you to decide. I also want to call out Sin Unending Cataclysm and Thief of Blood, both of which can nab all the counters from all permanents, making an absolutely gigantic creature. Even more gigantic if you combine your Palliation Accord with cards like Vexing Puzzle Box, Dark Depths, the Millennium Calendar, 5 Alarm Fire, Crescendo of War, Jar of Eyeballs, and more. Similar to Palliation Accord, these cards can generate a lot of counters very quickly, synergizing with most of the cards we've already mentioned. While it's a bit more of a janky strategy, there are a few options for commanders. Cross, Defense Contractor, and Parry the Pulverizer, both released in the same New Capenna Precon, are probably your best options. Cross in particular seems great, as he overlaps with both of the other strategies we've discussed so far. While there's no perfect fit, you could also explore Arna Kennerud, Sky Captain, Optimus Prime Hero, Inspirit, Flagship Vessel, or Denry Klin, Editor-in-Chief. Alright, keeping in mind each strategy we've discussed, it's time to officially ask the question: is Palliation Accord unplayable in the Commander format? Almost. While I do think Palliation Accord can be effective in the right circumstance, at 5 mana and considering its weaknesses, I'd go with a more consistent option first, ideally something that does more than just prevent damage, like Valkmira Protector Shield, for example. I actually think the best place to run this card is in the third strategy I mentioned, Weird Counters. All in all, I give it 1.82 dumpsters out of 7, an interesting card that probably isn't worth playing without a lot of synergy. But of course, what do you think? Is Palliation Accord better than I'm giving it credit? Should I build a Weird Counters deck? Let me know in the comments below, and feel free to leave suggestions for cards you want to see me review in the future. Finally, let's talk about our next giveaway. Our next winner will get an Edge of Eternities play booster, and to enter you've got to do 2 things. First, if you haven't yet, fill out the form in the description of this video to share your email address and YouTube username with me. This will let me contact the winner of the giveaway to get their shipping address. Once you've done that, simply leave a comment on this video for a chance to win. I'll announce the winner in my next Unplayable card review. And while you do not need to subscribe to my channel to win, I do hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss any future videos or giveaways. Thanks again for watching my video.